I'm talking with Liam O'Neill and Alex Blackwell. We're going to talk about a great little trip we had down to the Jersey Shore last year. Drive to Giglio's and just kind of like start shoveling diamond jigs into my hand. I think I took a break on the walk. Like I had to like sit there.
We were wondering what happened to you.
And as I'm flying over them, I'm seeing quality fish. I mean, 20, 30 plus pound stripers all underneath these birds migrating south.
They were out. You said they were 3 casts out. I would like to have gone home and seen my wife and children, but no, we stopped. I'm
No, you wouldn't.
They know. They know I'm kidding. Welcome to another episode of the On the Water podcast. Beautiful.
Let's go!
Mass, you're saying words, and I don't know what those words mean.
I told you we'll go through a Lightroom class, and
It'll be easy.
I'm gonna be a harsh grader.
We're talking about editing photographs. I'm talking with Liam O'Neill and Alex Blackwell. They are two of the guys who are almost always behind the cameras when we're filming content with On the Water. And we're going to talk about a great little trip we had down to the Jersey Shore last year. We just got back from one this year. Also a great trip.
Yeah.
Great in different ways.
It was a struggle, but I think we persevered through it and ended up getting some great results. I mean, that third day was fantastic, but I don't want to enlighten the audience on that just yet.
We're going to see that on Angling Adventures this coming winter. We faced some pretty rough seas, though. That was the...
I think I'm 5'5" now. I used to lie that I was like 5'9", but I think now it's just I'm getting shorter and shorter from those every wave.
That was the running joke. It was we all lost not just vertebrae, but just became like a singular spine.
It absolutely fused on that last day. So we were supposed to have one glorious day where we were going to go chase tuna. Then it was getting a little rougher, and the third day was kind of an add-on that kind of came about last minute. They were all rough instead, and
Yes.
we got our teeth kicked in on every day. What was nice is that the wind shifted directions, so the waves were always coming from a different angle to beat us up from.
But in like the all positive of it, like it was cool to see like all of the life, and just like we saw the Jersey Fall run, I think at like its best. Captain Gene Quigley and Captain Jim Frieda, that like it was excellent to see how they worked. Like I thought that was like what excellent captains.
It was that, and we did. When you said we saw Jersey Fall run fishing at its best, like we saw bluefin tuna a mile from the beach, ripping through sand eels. We saw stripers blitzing. We saw all different types of bait, from little tiny rain bait to mackerel to bunker. I mean, that's the fall run. All this life kind of colliding together, staging, and then all the fish go to their different places. Stripers will head to the Chesapeake. Some of those bluefin may head across the Atlantic to the Mediterranean. Some of them will go down to North Carolina for the winter. The bunker and the bait fish, I realize they kind of go offshore, not quite as far, but we're not talking about this year's.
No.
I do want to talk briefly about the challenges of filming in rough conditions. You guys field quite a few questions from people about like what cameras you film with, things like that.
Yep.
Now, there's no avoiding getting it wet, at least a little bit of wet.
Not a chance. The fact that we are putting very expensive camera equipment in the harshest conditions, most people would think, why? Like, there's no reason to do it other than you have to capture that moment. For a long time, it was all action cameras, and everyone rocked a GoPro or had a camcorder that could potentially film underneath water, because you're dealing with spray, you're dealing with wind, you're dealing with every condition possible. But these things should not be there. We do it out of the love of the game. And yes, there might be a couple insurance claims at another date and time down the line, but that might have been the roughest conditions I've ever personally been in. And before On the Water, I had been many, many places, put under many stressful situations. But yeah, this gear is not meant to do it, and we're just trying to document it.
It's more of a tool. Like that's really what it comes down to be, and it's just like any like fishing gear. Like if you want to get the best results out of it, you might be harsh on your gear. And we definitely did our best this trip to conceal as much as we could and to, pivot when we needed to pivot, especially like hooking up on one of the tunas and we're going into the wind, no matter what, you can't get that shot because you're going to have water all over your lens regardless, and you're not going to see everything clearly, and you're not going to get the best result. But
the amount of microfiber cloths that we go through, the amount of alcohol wipes that we go through just to try and get off as much salt, water, any sort of moisture off of these lenses to give you the best look, the best frame. I mean, most people would, take out a second mortgage based upon how much we go through.
Oh, well, yesterday was one of the rougher rides home I've ever had. And we kind of one last drifted ourselves into it. Like, we went out there and it was a glass calm and the wind was picking up. You could feel it freshening, getting a little bit worse. Waves were building, but the bite was getting better at the same time. And then we're like, should we leave? I think it was Chris Megan said, let's do one more drift. And he hadn't had enough just yet, so we did one more drift. And that single 10-minute drift probably added 30 minutes to our ride home.
That ride home, I mapped it out, or timed it out, really. It was an hour and 45 minutes to get from where we caught our last fish, which Liam ended up doing. Nice, Liam. But, yeah, it was an hour 45 when to get to this spot originally when we were dealing with these calmer seas, it was more like a 25-minute ride, 30-minute ride. So, I mean, it prolonged us massively.
We were going right into the teeth of a south wind, building waves, and Jim Frieda, one of his friends at the lifeguard stand, actually took photos of the boat, and you can't even see the boat. It's just it has disappeared behind the spray, and it conjured up the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, that song. That's when I saw those photos. That's what I heard. You had Chris out there on the back because you're on the front of the boat. It's going to be bouncing a little bit more. You're going to get more beat up there. So he elected, rather than get bounced around, he wanted to go to the back of the boat, where the caveat was he was going to get soaked.
Yeah.
But he put on all his foul weather gear, zipped up his hood, and you can see him in that photo. We got to post that photo.
Just an orange sliver on top of his G4 jacket. And what's funny is I was explaining that same situation to Adam yesterday, who's another one of our TV producers and long-standing members of On the Water. And he's like, oh, that's not the first time he's done this. And I don't know if you've experienced that, but he was explaining how in Nova Scotia, when they went after big bluefin tuna, had a very similar weather day. And Chris, compared to everyone else who was huddling on into the Downeaster, he was in the back riding on the stern and just taking water left and right. And he was like, I'm just happy to be here.
So, he'd prefer the salt water to the getting roughed around. But last year, let's get to the point of this podcast, and that's going to talk about what was one of our more popular episodes from season 22 of On the Water's Angling Adventures, and that was surf fishing in November at the Jersey Shore. And we went there last year, probably about right around.
It was right around this time.
Yeah,
actually. Yeah,
we're recording this. First week in November. So that was probably the second week in November we were there. And that trip, so it's been 3 Novembers in a row. I've gone down and tried to film something at the Jersey Shore. The first year, I did not catch a fish, but we still had to do the show.
Yeah, that we tried to add into the edit a little memoir or obituary for Jimmy's lack of fish.
What was rough about that one is the fishing had been so good. That wasn't on the schedule, but the fishing had been great. There were 3 days. I had a hole in the schedule, so in my schedule, I was able to go down there. I called the tackle shop, my friend Mike Gleason. He's like, dude, I went out on my lunch break today. I caught 3 fish over 40 inches in 25 minutes. You should get down here. It's going to be good. But as we're driving down, the wind shifts to south, which is kind of the kiss of death for the Jersey fall run. It creates some upwelling, and it cools off the water, shuts off the striper bite, makes everything a little bit tougher. But we went there anyway. 3 fish on your lunch break. Everyone's hammering them, losing count of the fish they're catching. Stripers to 50 pounds on the beach. And we saw 2 landed from the surf over the 2 days we were there. And it was tough. It was hard to go home after that and still be like, all right, well, we filmed the episode. We still had to put out the from the surf with no fish. And I like to try to tell the honest stories of what happens. If they're not too honest, I mean, it was an adventure. We saw some fish, great drone footage. But anyhow, that was a rough one. So I was looking for redemption last year, and I had you two coming down with me. And was that your first time fishing the Jersey Shore, either of you guys?
That was my first time. Yep.
Yeah, I had not been down to the Jersey Shore. heard great things going into that fall run, and originally being from Florida, and Liam originally being from where? Pittsburgh.
Yep.
We didn't get those opportunities growing up, and to see it the way that we saw it was actually really, really cool. And I'd love you to talk about, just kind of seeing our faces and our expressions, a couple of landlocked people or a very south driven, surf caster, so to say. I'd love to hear your thoughts when you see our eyes light up in seeing those moments.
Yeah, so our first stop, different from last year, we decided we were just going to go. Mm-hmm. We knew the fishing was going to be good. Things were supposed to be okay, but it wasn't like the previous year where people were saying, oh, get down here right now. It was kind of building. The fishing was all right, but we needed to get another show. We thought, what better than a fall run surf show? Let's go get Redemption. And I went down there thinking it was going to be a bunker bite the whole time. So I load up the car with metal lips, with topwater plugs, pencil poppers. I'm like, you guys are going to see a show. There's going to be your feet are going to be awash with peanut bunker, and the stripers are going to be bumping into your knees. It's going to be amazing. When I was slinging eels at the tackle shop, the one reel that all the guys behind the counter were using was the feature-packed, durable Quantum Cabo. Fast forward 20 years, and the Quantum Cabo is back and better than ever for all our Northeast fisheries, from backwater fluke to midshore mahi. As a surf guy, I'm most excited about the reel being sealed to IPX8 standards. That means the reel can shrug off saltwater spray and splashes and even handle the occasional full submersion. Surfcasters also benefit from the Castex slow oscillating spool that lays braided line perfectly for maximum casting distance. GearTech machined gearing delivers a smooth performance with solid cranking power, and a CFX 200 drag deals up to 45 pounds of pressure on big fish. In the early summer, I tested out the reel on big snook in Florida, and I just got one of my own to use for the superior line siders, the striped bass. If you want to learn more, visit quantumfishing.com. Quantum, tested beyond limits. So our first stop is Giglio's Bait and Tackle in Seabright, where Mike Pinto's there, and we get a rundown from him. It's like, yeah, there's kind of some fish around, but it's not that great. I thought, oh my God, here we go again. Like, we're going down here, and all we're going to do is eat pork roll and pizza.
It's Groundhog Day for you.
Yeah, I thought, I cannot have two failed fall run shoots on the Jersey Shore when they've had their best fall runs ever in like the last 2 or 3 years. But he said, you know what? I had heard there were some fish off Sandy Hook, so why don't you go up there? What he left out was that those fish were eating sand eels. So I go up there. I've got all my peanut bunker stuff, all my big bunker plugs, and as we're walking on, we see an old friend of mine, Steve George, who I used to run into down on the bridges in South Jersey. He's a lifelong surfcaster. He's a surf fishing guide, and he was talking. He had a good morning. He said there's a lot of people there. They're still catching, so we were all excited. It's a long walk.
We were hustling.
You guys have all your heavy camera equipment. By comparison, what I was carrying was light as a feather. We get out there, and you see the lineup of guys. It wasn't ridiculously crowded. There was probably a couple dozen guys, but spread out over the beach.
Yep.
And then you get a little close. You see them. You see the crowd. You make the little bend, and then you start seeing the rods. You see a bent. There's one bent rod.
Yeah.
There's another one, and it wasn't everybody hooking up every cast, but it was a pretty steady pick.
Yeah.
Yep. It was almost like almost in rhythm. It was just like it would go down the line of like hook, 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 hook. Yep.
And these fish were sizes from like 24 inches to, I think one of the first ones we saw caught had to be 45.
We got one on film, and you'll see it. You see it in the episode. One of the guys, he got a very solid fish, and I think in the episode, like you're commentating, almost watching him. He's like, "Oh, he's doing a good job there, landing it. Yep, take that wave and roll right to the beach. That's a good." So you go through all that, and that's where the excitement builds. You're like, I know they're gonna eat this. I just don't know if like we're in the right spot, if it's the right like depth, the right distance.
You get up there, and the first thing you're doing when you see all these bent rods is what's everyone throwing.
Yeah,
and that was where I started to get a little twinge of uneasiness because everyone's throwing Ava jigs, which are they're a type of diamond jig. It's a long, slender metal, 4 sides on it, and then has a barrel swivel that goes to a hook, a long shank hook that has a bend in the middle. It's called a true turn hook or a Limerick style hook. There's also another name that Mustad has that is unpronounceable. It's like the ICAST. It's like IKEA furniture. Where it has all little dots over it and stuff. I'm not going to try it. Then they put a piece of surgical tubing over that. That is, for all intents and purposes, one of the best sand eel imitations out there. Casts well. That swivel makes the tube spin as it goes. And if you were to be underneath that jig when it's going overhead and it's spinning, it looks like a sand eel just scurrying along. The metal's hitting the bottom, puffing up the sand like a sand eel trying to get away. And people give those things a hard time as if they're like too easy to catch fish on. And they can be. I get it. You know, there's certain things that are just everybody uses and catches fish on. But man, when you don't have it, and that's all they want to eat, it was tough.
I remember seeing down the line all the different colors that were, protruding from that hook, that surgical tube that you were talking about. And I remember asking you, what is that? What is that, Jimmy? Oh, it's an Ava jig. The same explanation you just gave. And I think I remember asking, do you have any of those? Oh, no, I don't have any. But the bunker bite's been going good. We just talked to, the guy in Giglio's. We should be good. And as we progressed through that afternoon and we continued to watch big fish get landed, even multiple schoolie-sized fish get landed, I watched your mood change from this is going to happen to, uh-oh, I screwed up.
I'm going through every lure in the bag at that point. I've got paddle tails. I've got bucktails. I've got all these things that are getting close, but nothing's getting touched. And part of that is, too, I'm not reaching the fish. The Avas are casting way further than anything in my plug bag. But I still had that feeling they're catching so many fish. Surely it's not only the tools. This carpenter's going to figure it out, But I didn't. I had the wrong goddamn nails. So I could.
Until an unsung hero came walking along the beach
Yes.
and saved the day.
So also down there, Neil Larson, who was the former general manager of On the Water, he was on vacation at the Jersey Shore, fishing with a bunch of buddies, and he'd been moving up and down looking for fish, and he was heading to Sandy Hook too. And I saw him. I knew he was coming because he texted me. He said, "Any fish up there?" I'm like, "There's a couple caught." And I saw him walking up the beach, and I thought, I bet Neil has diamond jigs. So he walks up, and we talk. We exchanged pleasantries. Oh, how's it been? How you going? Hey Neil, you got any diamond jigs in there? He's like, oh yeah, FIFA. I got a couple. No, that's the last Neil impression I'll do. He had a couple, and he kindly gave me one, and it was
Second
the first
cast.
second cast with it.
It was just all distance for you. Getting that Ava jig out that far, and it was almost immediate too. So we finally figured out that it really was distance that we needed.
So land that fish, land another fish, and then hook a third and break it off.
Yep.
And there goes the one diamond jig that Neil gave to you.
Now, knowing Neil only had a handful. I saw all the ones. I couldn't go back to him and beg for another diamond jig. Also, he wasn't trailing two other people filming him. He got right into the mix. He just elbowed his way into the heart of the action up there. So I had a decision to make. Do we keep trying with the stuff we know isn't working, or do I go back to Giglio's and try to get back before sunset? At that point, it was after daylight savings time. It was probably...
It was 2:00.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'll be back in an hour. You hand me your rod. Be like, Liam, just, go have fun.
Yeah. Go use all these ineffective lures.
But what was funny about that, I think when you were gone, you might have still been there, but someone had broken off a diamond jig, and I had hooked the line, and I brought that back, and I got a diamond jig, and I was like, take the snap swivel off, put that one on, just cast that out there, and I was like, all right. I think it was too light. I know that. I know because I knew I could feel it not getting to the bottom, and it really wasn't casting as far as everyone else was. But that's also, my surf fishing experience is not that long. It was about 5 minutes. Yeah.
There's something to that too. The Ava jigs have their own little size system to them. There's the A17 or the A27. The A27, which is about 3 ounces, was the effective one there. That's the one where the guys were reaching it. You probably found an A17 or an A007, which are tiny. They're not going to cast as far.
Right. I did hook one but it was so tiny that like I could just, the very tip of the rod was just slowly bent over, but I just felt like the little taps and head shakes. And then I was like, oh, I think it's off.
So while you guys are doing that, I trudge back down all the way to the lot at Sandy Hook, hop in the car, drive to Giglio's, and just kind of like start shoveling diamond jigs into my hand. He throws them in. Mike puts them in a brown paper bag for me, and then drive back and make the walk back out. At this point, like I am sweating like a farm animal. Like my waders are just filled with sweat. I think I took a break on the walk. Like I had to like sit there.
We
and
were
just,
wondering
like,
what happened to you. We were
Just
about to.
disappeared for a good hour and a half, and we were like, "Is he going to make it back?" As we're peering over the distance of the sand dunes of Sandy Hook, you're just looking. It's like, "Is that Jim? Is that him?" No. They would all keep passing by, and so the time was ticking. Like sun was starting to go ahead and set, and we knew we had this goal in mind, which is you got 2 fish, but 2 fish doesn't make an episode. We really wanted to continue to see you catch fish, and that clock was ticking down for us.
So finally, I don't think the sun had gotten maybe close to the horizon. I get back out there. Everybody still, throughout this entire ordeal, everyone continued to catch fish. And it sounded like Neil had hooked and lost a really big one, I think, in that time. And get out there, clip on my brand new diamond jigs, like catch my breath, and then and right back to catching.
Yep.
I remember stuffing the brown paper bag of diamond jigs into the front of my waders. They're just hooks poking everywhere. I've still got holes in them from it. And but man, life was good. The bite went right up till sunset.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we went back and we availed ourselves of some Jersey Shore pizza, which was really good.
It was I forget the place we went to, but I think the bigger story out of that. So when we went, because it was so last minute, we didn't have any place to stay.
No.
And so while we're eating pizza, we're trying to figure out like, all right, what should we do here? And Alex over here was like, oh, we'll just get a hotel room and 2 beds, that'll be fine. And Jimmy and I are like, the hell we are.
There's 3 of us, you know.
We were on a budget. Let's just say that we were balling on a budget, and
It wasn't quite a rogue. We didn't go rogue on this.
Not
We
really.
had
a nice meeting that said, "Hey, this is the time slot that you can go."
We had some soft permission for it. So
Yes.
from Chris Megan. But yeah, so we went, we took it, and we weren't going to stay in one hotel room though for three grown men, and we found an Airbnb.
It was perfect. It was right near where we needed to be. And then, that next morning, I think there was definitely more of a pep in your step there because you knew you're like, all right, I've got everything I need. We're going in the morning. Morning was good yesterday. And, we got some really cool footage of that morning of day 2.
We knew the where, we knew the how, and we had like the morning bite as good as the afternoon had been. People said the morning bite was even better.
Yeah, and you could see it as we got through that little tunnel from the parking lot to the beach, and you stared off towards the left with the New York City skyline to your right, and you're just peering into the distance, and it was just like this black cloud was surrounding the hook.
But before we got there, so this is the difference between just going and fishing with your buddies and trying to film it for a media company. In that I would have peeled into the parking lot, gotten out, and just slowly limped back to made my 5th walk out to Sandy Hook. But we've got to get the camera gear ready. We have to get the microphones, get all the settings and get everything dialed in, because honestly, that's the point you're there. Otherwise, I'm not at Sandy Hook, New Jersey on a Wednesday in November. I am at my desk doing nothing. So you have to make the content. Like that
preparation is something that it's not easy to adjust to from an angler perspective, because like you just said, you want to get out there as quickly as possible. And so we've tried to get the flow and the rhythm and the system to be as efficient as possible, but it does take time.
And someone also had to use the restroom.
I forgot about that.
There was an emergency restroom situation that was also, and like basically I'm sitting there, like I can hear the stripers eating the sand eels from the parking lot. No, from the car as we're circling looking for a porta potty. What did we end up finding? Was it a porta potty? Some darkened, terrifying porta potty out in the parking lot.
It was one of the lots. Just we had to keep going though. I thought he was going to have to go into one of the like abandoned military houses. And you're just gonna have to.
Well, we're looking for that restroom stop, and everything on the map says, oh, all this public access points, you can go to the restroom, and they're just all locked. So we're checking off these boxes of like, nope, that's not it, nope, that's not it, and settled on the big plastic porta potty that, yeah, that's not the ideal place to go and relieve yourself, but we got it done.
But there is, I mean, we're talking about Sandy Hook. New Jersey has incredible surf fishing access, especially there are some states in New England that aren't quite as fisherman friendly as New Jersey is. You have Island Beach State Park. Even outside of the two parks, Sandy Hook and Island Beach, there's good beach access, good parking lots. Yeah. It's a very fisherman friendly state, and so it can accommodate the large crowds that it gets, which is part of it. I mean, Sandy Hook is not a secret spot. For 100 years, fishermen have been going there and catching big striped bass in the fall. They catch albies, they catch fluke. It's a great place, and because it's this little sandy peninsula that separates Sandy Hook Bay from the Atlantic Ocean, and also you have the Raritan and this whole and New York Harbor up in there. So it's you have the confluence of two different bodies of water, some deep water, good currents, and it's just a magnet for striped bass in the fall.
I bet if we weren't there and it was just you fishing, you would have gotten there immediately and probably gotten to that point where all the people were catching the bigger fish.
We were one of the first people there, but not the first by any means.
It reminded me a lot of fishing the Salmon River and going out. You got to get there at 2:00 in the morning. You got to hold your spot until daylight, and then you can start fishing. Obviously, this is saltwater; it's a lot different. You can fish at night, but I mean, there were the hardcore. There were guys out there in shorts and not wearing any waders.
Just a quick aside too. You talked about the people in shorts, and it reminded me of that trip the year before with Tommy Riley when we filmed our episode of From the Surf and did not catch any fish. Now, some guy I was talking to him like, oh man, I can't believe the fishing's so bad. We're just hanging out on the boardwalk watching the bunker way out of range, and he goes, I heard there were some fish at lot. The lots are lettered. I'm going to say lot G. It might not be lot G. I heard there were some fish at lot G yesterday. Why don't you go there, take your cameraman there? Now, I thought this was a good Samaritan.
No.
He was not a good. He knew exactly what he was doing because you know what? There is a nude beach on Sandy Hook at Lot G.
Oh, no way.
Okay. Everglades Boats is an industry leader in premium offshore fishing boats. Founded in 1997 by boating industry legend and former Boston Whaler executive Bob Doherty, Everglades revolutionized the boat building industry with the invention of the ram cap process for one-piece unsinkable hulls. Respected for its renowned hull ride, Everglades builds center console and hybrid boats from 25 to 45 feet that make a statement about the status and savvy of their owner. Everglades has received numerous industry awards and achieved an unparalleled reputation for superior safety, performance, and quality. For more information about Everglades Boats, stop by your local dealer or visit evergladesboats.com. Everglades Boats, built for beyond. So we walk out there, and there's a sign that's saying, caution, there may be some nude sunbathers there. It's late October. Weather's not too great. What are the odds that somebody feels the need to sun their nether regions on a late October day in northern New Jersey? But you'd be surprised, Liam. You'd be surprised, Alex. There were several, and they were almost all men. And one was reading a book. I think it was a John Grisham book. There was no place to rest the eyes.
I'm sure Tommy literally just put his camera down and said, Jimmy, we shouldn't be here.
When I saw because naive as I am, we saw the sign warning about the nude beach. I was like, Tommy, leave the big camera here for now. Okay? And I'm going to go look and report back because maybe there are. Maybe there are stripers blitzing, and I'll be next to a naked surf caster catching them. It'll be your phrase. It'll be an experience in my life. And we get out there. Of course, there's no peanut bunker. That guy just sent us on a little goose chase to see some giblets. And that's when that's where we left. That was the last cast I made at the Jersey Shore for that particular trip. But then we found our redemption. So day 2,
yes,
get in the lot, not lot G, walk out to the tip of Sandy Hook, and the wind had picked up a lot overnight. But it was a west wind, west-northwest wind, so the temperature got a little bit colder. And that is the wind. and we talked a lot about the wind on our most recent trip there with Gene Quigley and Jim Frieda, but all these guys love the west wind in the fall.
West is best.
West is best because what that does, it's going to flatten out the ocean, which is nice for running the boat. But bunker come right into the wind. They swim into the wind because it makes it easier for them to filter feed. Also starts to cool off the water a little bit because it's pushing that warm surface waters offshore, and the upwelling is the cooler bottom waters that are then hitting the surface, making the stripers feed, forcing them to migrate. And we had that wind that day. And when we went out there, like you said it, the birds were pretty much, you could almost not see the New York City skyline for all the birds that were there. Thousands and thousands of seagulls dipping and eating sand
And it was like, it almost went to the Statue of Liberty. Like it wasn't just long, but it was just like out there.
We had a good morning, caught some fish, then had the bite did dry up, so it wasn't as long lived as the night before. We probably had 2 hours of fish, nothing too big. There were some nice ones caught, but the biggest I had was probably 30 inches tops.
Yeah, and that was that night prior, I'm pretty sure.
So no big ones, but some schoolies and certainly. With the striper fishing up here drying up in early November, happy to get it, whatever I could get.
Yeah. We got numbers, and I think that was like the biggest thing is like, I mean, you go from 0 to, I think you got like total 8, maybe something like that.
Yeah, it was a solid.
Yeah, so I mean, like, regardless, going from no fish to then a bunch of fish,
it was a big upgrade.
Yeah.
But we weren't on fishing yet. We left the beach because the bite had dried up. We went back we wanted to record an interview with Mike Pinto from Giglio's, talk about the fishing. And as that's happening, I got a little text from my friend, Captain Rob Radloff, who's one of the sharpest fishermen I've ever fished with. He does a lot of tuna, does a lot of big stripers from the boat. I caught my biggest ever striper with Rob. But he was spending the day on the beach, and he was a little bit further south of us, and he goes, we're catching big bass and peanut bunker down here on Meadow Lips, and there's some adult bunker. So we interview Mike, run down there, and do you remember what we saw once we got there?
It was nonstop bunker. Yeah, and they were close to shore, and it was guys lined up. Bunker were lined up on the beach. Surfcasters were in the water, braving the waves, and people were catching. And so as soon as we saw that, we had to hop out of the car.
We get down there, and there was kind of a whisper down the lane because you had another lineup of fishermen, more spread out than you had on Sandy Hook. But everybody's throwing, instead of the diamond jigs, big metal lips, big pencil poppers. So I was prepared for that. So I had all my metal lips. I'm throwing the big bunker stuff. And I saw one guy fighting a fish forever, gets it onto the beach, and like you hear through the grapevine, like, oh, like so-and-so just let 48 inches. I'm like, 48, that's a 40-pound fish all day. So bigger fish there, and they are right. You're watching the peanut bunker get sprayed out of the water by the stripers, but we had just missed kind of the big frenzy of the bite.
It was like you were saying, I think like every 30 minutes or something like that, like they would push the bait up to the beach. So we had missed that window, and then we continued to fish, and then I think we missed another window like further south.
So it's wherever, the Jersey guys are so good with their networks, for better or worse. I mean, people have mixed feelings about how much instant communication like cell phones and social media, how it can be bad for surf fishing. How can people certainly catch more fish because they have access to cell phones and can instantly communicate. So, friends of, groups of fishing friends will spread out there and they will say, okay, we've got them down at Asbury Park. Okay, well, there's nothing in Deal. So then they all head in that direction. The other thing that they do, which is pretty resourceful, is use surf cams. So a lot of towns have surf cams that they will look at that the surfers use to see, is it worth going out? I'm not a surfer. I don't know what the surfer lingo is. Is it worth going and getting my board to shred some waves?
There's similar things at up in Erie at Elk Creek. There's the John's Campground, and I did it in high school. I did it in college when I was missing steelhead. You could see the weather conditions and the stream conditions through those like trail cams. And you could see like people catching steelhead. You could see like what if the stream was frozen over. So yeah, very similar to that, which is pretty cool.
So you can monitor them, and then what the guys look for is either can you see the bunker? If things are going really well, do you see the fish breaking? One of the more obvious signs is, are the boats close to the beach? You know, if you see all the boats in close, I mean, there's a lot of party boats there. The fish were stripers, and they will be. I mean, you could
We saw that the other day
Yeah.
when we were striper fishing and we went to the beaches. We saw those, like, the fleets were. I mean, you could almost think that they were going to be beached. How
casting
close they
distance
were
from shore,
Yeah.
and that creates some animosity between the boat and the surf guys. Sometimes
I'm sure.
A lot of some heated words exchanged. I mean, the boat guys probably don't care. You know, like, what do you got? Come get me. You know.
What's funny is while we were down there for our trip, you were always like, just can't get the distance, just can't get out there like just as far as you would need to catch these fish. And we were in big fish territory. We were seeing big fish getting brought up, and you were even saying, like, this is the day that you want to be a boat guy. And so it's funny to see this past trip that we took and then the previous trip that we took. We've kind of been on both sides of it, and there's no happy medium. It's either you're rocking it on one end or you're rocking it on the other end.
Yeah, it's tough to be a surf guy when the fish are out of range to cast out, and that's what happened to us that day. They eventually the little bit of a blitz we caught the tail end of ended. The bunker and the bait all moved offshore. We saw some explosions.
You hooked one, right?
I hooked one and dropped it on a it was a Beachmaster Junior, which is a metal lip, like a 6-inch long metal lip. And they moved out of range, and we're sitting there, and everyone we talked to was like, they're going to come back in. They're going to just wait a little bit, But then we started getting some, come on home, boys. So,
yeah, it
some
was
texts about
the texts were starting to come on in, and
Reality was coming back.
it was.
we're not just filming TV shows, and we're not just fishing. Like, we have a handful of other work that we need to do. Jimmy being an editor for the magazine, we have deadlines that we have to meet, and at the end of the day, fishing trips do have to end.
I was pushing to stay a third day. I really wanted one more morning in that zone where all the bunker and big fish were, but we didn't. But before we went, Alex decided I need to put the drone up. I'd like to get some drone footage. So we parked by the Highlands Bridge, which is not far from Giglio's. Closer to Sandy Hook than where we were finding the fish on bunker. He throws the drone up, and there were some seagulls offshore. I think you were just looking for some texture, some shots of the area.
Yeah.
What you found, what did you find?
Well, I'll give some context. So, state parks and national parks, you can't fly drones in. Even with a Part 107 license, you have to go through a permitting process that can take months to go ahead and do. So it's one of the reasons why we didn't fly the drone on Sandy Hook. And one of the things that we're always looking for to add, like you said, textures, elements to the cohesive piece of an episode is you need to get some drone footage. It's something that has come into the fold and has become prolific within video within the last 10 years or so. And it's a really cool angle. It's a bird's eye view that you just can't get. And so while I was grabbing some Sandy Hook from afar drone footage, I decided to run off beach a little bit, get into the surf, get into the swells. And as I continued to peer further and further into the distance, birds started to pop up. And as you start to see birds, there might be some fish under them. So I decided to fly on over them. And as I'm flying over them, I'm seeing quality fish. I mean, 20, 30 plus pound stripers all underneath these birds migrating south. And Jimmy, of course, is like, let me see what's over your shoulder. Let me just take a peek. And as soon as Jimmy saw that, I watched him be like, come on, Alex, just a couple more hours. Can't we stay for another day?
It was thousands upon thousands of fish, and they weren't really feeding so much as just they were kind of gathered up. They had their noses pointed south. They weren't swimming real hard. I guess they were moving a little bit, but
if you own a boat, whether it's a sport fish, a charter vessel, or a commercial rig, your insurance should be as reliable as your gear. That's where Lambros Insurance comes in, specializing in marine coverage for yachts, charter boats, commercial vessels, and marinas. We understand the water because we live it. Dean Lambros isn't just an insurance pro. He's a seasoned captain with years on the water. Protect your boat, your business, and your passion with a policy that actually fits. Visit LambrosInsurance.com or call Dean directly, 203-644-4044, and get covered by someone who speaks your language.
They were out. You said there were 3 casts out.
Yeah, they were close enough to shore where you just want to touch them, but they were far enough from shore where, Jimmy, you're not going to be able to reach them. We need a boat, and we didn't have access to a boat that day.
So I have feelings about drones and fishing in general, in that I think that the footage they create is wonderful. It's a really cool perspective, but it's removed some of the mystery that fishing had, especially surf fishing. When you think of that, what I always liked about surf fishing is there's no electronics. You are just, it is your best guess of whether these fish are here. And you don't really know what they're doing, how fast they're moving, what it looks like. You build up this picture in your head, and then you see what it actually looks like, or you put the drone up and you see, oh, there's actually no fish around here for miles, or there's a ton of them just out of range, and it's going to be a very sad 5-hour ride home.
I think you looked more in your rear view than you did at the actual road heading back.
Because if they blitzed and hit the beach, we were hitting the U-turn, we were going right back.
Yep.
We saw what the bunker were like on those beaches, and knowing that there's thousands of those stripers migrating south, you know that that's going to collide and create an absolute blitz upon, like an age-old blitz that they will tell tales of, that Jimmy is like, I need to be a part
They're
of
going to
that.
be
And
nuking on the beach.
It did, and they are telling those stories. People, it wasn't as good as 2023. 2023, I threaded the needle into like the 2 slowest days of the fall run, and I think Shell Karras, who's been surf fishing for 60 years, 65 years at this point, said that was the best fall. 2023 was the best fall run he'd ever experienced. So that one stings, but got out there, got my fix last year, which is good, and still felt like, I guess you can't catch them all. You got to leave something on the table.
But that's good, though, because you're going to, well, regardless, you're going to go back. But, I mean, like, there's added motivation there for next year.
I think Jersey is I actually just did a podcast with Joe Cermelli about a tog trip we had off Rhode Island. He talks about how Rhode Island, the fishing there makes it tough to get excited about the tog fishing in New Jersey because the Rhode Island tog fishing's so good. I mean, but that's like the only knock you can put against the Jersey fishing. I mean, it's got incredible tuna fishing, incredible surf fishing for stripers in the fall. And, man, like, there is nowhere I'd rather be in November than New Jersey.
After seeing these last 2 trips and seeing, like, the from shore and then from the boat, I was like, on our ride home, I was like, in my head, I'm like, why did you ever leave? Because it was just I mean, I know that's like, the shoulder seasons are really the best, but I mean, that was just nonstop feeding action on top, guys hooking up, like.
It's a prolific fishery.
Yes.
And I think it doesn't get as much praise as it deserves. And probably that's because a lot of these anglers, they don't want to blow up this spot. In this modern age of spot burning and state burning too, here's the best fishing. You got to be here. You do want to protect that. But seeing Jersey in its purest form, the fall run, it's a spectacle. And it is something that I'm really grateful to have at least gotten to see.
And beyond that, beyond the trying to protect it, when you think of a fishing destination and kind of like you think of somewhere more remote, somewhere a little bit more removed from society. I mean, you're fishing, you can't escape the New York City skyline there. Jersey itself is one of the most densely populated states in the country. So you think that just doesn't, those aren't the qualities you think of like a fishing destination. You think of, Panama on a remote island. You think of even Cape Cod, where Boston's far away and you get to the outer Cape and, it's they roll up the streets at 8:00 at night.
What's interesting with Jersey is from a freshwater perspective, that's a really slept on fishery and a very protected fishery. They're offshore fishing, the blue water, the inshore, all of that, the saltwater aspect. Night and day difference between what you can find in other sections of New England, because you're only getting like a snippet in these northern states. I think they get that, like Liam was saying, that shoulder season, both the spring and that fall. And then you've told this many times, the summer fishing off of Jersey can be absolutely fantastic. I think they just get that more extended season. And while they are still a part of that mid-Atlantic Northeast region, they're kind of in that sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think this would be maybe controversial to say, but I think New Jersey's probably the tuna capital of the Northeast in terms with the fishing they have. They've got that great nearshore tuna bite that happens in the fall. Good bluefin in the spring. I mean, that varies a little bit. And then the yellowfin fishery. Cheech and I talked about that every week for 8 weeks in our offshore reports about how good that was. I mean, it's tough to pick a state that has from May to November, actually December.
Right.
Those giant tuna will be there into December, and the even some smaller, more manageable fish. You saw how many tuna were there the last couple of days. We're out there driving around. We were supposed to be focusing on stripers on our third day, fishing with Captain Jim Frieda, and we saw you couldn't escape them. We went into the beach to catch stripers among the bunker, to fish for stripers in the bunker schools. Right next to the boat, there goes a giant bluefin tuna ripping through the bunker.
And it's instinct you can't not go after it. And I was talking with Elio, Jim's first mate, and him and I were talking about, like, we got to focus on the stripers. But did you see that tuna feed out there? That was probably lasted for a minute. And you have to, like, bite your tongue as a, when filming, and we have a goal in mind and we need to get fish. We could chase our tail with these tuna. And if we get one, that would be awesome. But that's also, like, that's not what we, came for. We wanted to show the striper fishery with Jim. And so just you're driving past it and you're just like, oh, it's right there.
It's so hard. But yeah, that goes to, we talked about how you can't just run out of the car and go fishing. You do have to stick to the plan. Like fishing, when you're filming fishing, whether it's a TV show or something for YouTube, you have to stick to the plan. It is not the free-form jazz that just going and fishing on your own is. It is, I don't know, whatever the opposite of free-form jazz is. Classical music? Like
Very, very rudimentary, just like 4-on-the-4 beats. You got to stay within your lines a little bit with this style of filming and what we try and accomplish with an angling adventures. Like Liam said, the single goal in mind, it does hurt as a angler, because we're all anglers and we want to have that free form to move around, catch what we want to catch in the moment, and sometimes we lose that beauty in that during that day. But when you do have a great plan and you execute that great plan, it feels amazing because you set out with a single goal and you executed that goal. But at the same time, too, we've had many trips through many adventures on angling adventures where you go in with a single goal in mind, and unfortunately that goal just never manifests itself.
I mean, Alex, you have a ton of experience with this. I mean, before you made your way to On the Water, tell us about some of your background in filming.
So I spent about 2.5 years filming with John Barzakini, goes by John B on YouTube. I went ahead and connected with him. God, this is now 5-6 years ago. It was a random chance. And as an angler and as a videographer and just a creative, to get the opportunity to be with John and to explore his adventures during that time when he was free to go ahead and do whatever he wanted. He now has kids. He's got a wife. That adds some constraints, Jimmy, right?
Oh, yeah. It's just throwing anchors off your once free-moving ship. I know it. I'm trailing 4 of them.
John was, at that time in his life, willing to attack any adventure, any fish species that he could get his hands on. I mean, we went to Sudan. We went to Australia. We bounced around, I don't know, half of the states in the United States. We explored new waters in a way that was really pivotal for my growth as a content creator, but also an outdoor content creator, because we got put through the ringer on numerous occasions, whether it be overnight camping on the Devil's River on a 40-mile float to being on, or being in the backwoods of Maine on, snowmobiles in a blizzard and trying to keep these cameras and these batteries warm so that they don't drain. And by the time that we catch that record-breaking or that PB brook trout through the ice, we have that ability to film it and document it.
Can I just back up real quick? You mentioned 2 far-flung destinations that you've been to and filmed. We don't have to go too deep into that, but if you could go back to one just to fish, which would it be? Australia or Sudan? Did you say Sudan?
Yeah, so Sudan. So
where's that? Just put that on a map for us, for some of us who failed geography.
So Sudan is just to the south of Egypt, and it is a coastline next to the Red Sea. The Red Sea has biblical stories about it from,
Literally.
yeah, literally. The book of Exodus, talks about it, and obviously doesn't really talk about fish, but the Red Sea is, to Europe and to South America, the scuba capital of the world. It is filled with life, and what it is essentially it's a giant lake with no tide. And so you have this warm water that is filled with life, and it has all these tiny little islands and atolls that go from 3,000 feet deep all the way up to you're a foot and a half above sea level, and it's these little spits that you get a chance to hop on, touch their coral reefs, and explore what could be dogtooth water to GT water to bluefin trevally water, bonefish, permit, triggerfish, anything in the book that is within the Indo-Pacific region. It's there. It's a prolific fishery. I would probably go back to Sudan. And I fished 2 days in Sudan out of our 14-day exploratory mission. We were about 150 miles south of Port Sudan, so we were in the middle of freaking nowhere. And to touch some of these atolls, and for the captain and for the mates and the guides to be like, this is the first time anyone has stood foot on this specific atoll with a fishing rod in hand that we know of in history, it was like walking on the moon. I would love to go back and do it, but with a completely different mindset of put down the camera and embrace the moment. Those 2 days that I got a chance to do that, I caught fish I'd never dreamed of catching before.
What'd you catch?
So I caught a yellow-lipped emperor snapper, which is just this weird Picasso-looking fish. I mean, it is the most bizarre thing on planet Earth. And when I'm hooked up to it and fighting it, the guide's like, we don't know what it is. It was just this black figure coming out of the coral reef, eating this fly that, honestly, it could have been a jeet. It could have been a grouper. They've got these leopard grouper that are spotted beyond comprehension, and they're just stunning fish. And as I pulled up this fish, I had my buddy, his name's Mick Guthrie. He's from Australia. We were paired with him and Ben Jones. He goes by GT Buster on YouTube. Good friends of John and myself. And Mick comes on over, and he's like, brother, have you ever seen one of these? And I'm like, no, I've never seen one of these. He goes, in Australia, we only catch ones that are half the size of this. This is a trophy fish. And I'm like, this is cool. Like, nice to see, nice fight. Oh, very cool. Let's send it off. And it kind of goes back to perspective versus perception. I've been saying this more and more. It doesn't matter whether it's filming, fishing, so on and so forth. If you come into a trip and you are a blank canvas, you don't have any expectations going into it, you want to paint that picture the way that your adventure paints that picture, you come out of it with a more grateful and appreciative tone and memory of it. And that's something that, honestly, I'll say that I learned from John, because he could appreciate any fish that he touched. Jimmy, what's my favorite saying that I give to you?
Every fish is a treasure, is what you say when I get a little dismissive of short fish.
It is... It's something that it's something that we as anglers take advantage of, or take for granted for. Is that the saying?
Take for granted.
Yeah. It's something as anglers we take for granted, which is when we get a chance to even hook up onto a fish or just touch this fish. Who knows the story? Who knows the mindset of what that fish is, experiencing? We sometimes I would just want us to take a step back and appreciate that small moment. Treat that fish like a treasure. Doesn't matter if it's a 4-inch bluegill that is lit up with the most beautiful colors because you found it in this tiny little creek in this back section of Tennessee, or it could be the biggest bluefin of your life.
I've gotten better about the embracing the journey and not being so focused on the destination. I've gotten better.
You have gotten better. I've seen it. You've grown.
I do, and I fall into the same trap that Anthony DeCicci does, and I give him a hard time, is where I go in with like the sky high hopes, and he's worse than anybody I've ever seen. Where he'll be like, okay, so we're gonna go catch 6 tuna, and then we're gonna go catch some white marlin, and when that's done, then we're gonna go get a cobia. And I'm like, Cheech, we're leaving. We're not leaving sight of land. So he will have these crazy plans and then get disappointed if his sky high hopes aren't met. I have a touch of that in me, and I'm trying to get better at. And you're right about just appreciating the opportunity to do it and getting out there and being attached to these fish and seeing them, even if it is a 26-inch striper and not the 50-incher that the people in the peanut bunker who stayed the extra day caught. Yeah. So we got some of your background and your philosophy. Liam.
It ain't going to be...
How'd you find your way here? Were you also in Sudan?
I was in Erie. No. Yeah, maybe we should have gone with me first and then to that, but...
I apologize.
No. I mean, like, I've told Alex...
I can't even picture an emperor snapper, so I don't know if that's cool, but I know what steelhead look like.
Exactly.
And those are amazing. Is an emperor snapper cooler than a steelhead, Alex?
All fish are cool, Jim.
That's the answer.
I thought he was going to say yes.
No, but I mean, like, growing up, I watched John B's videos all throughout. Like, I told this to Alex too. Like, the videos that he would make for John, I was like, someday I'm gonna figure out how to do that. And so being in Erie, Pittsburgh, the closest fishery that was like of good fun fishing was Lake Erie for me. And I would do the bass fishing, go for some stock trout in ponds or in streams close to home. But, it was only like a 2-hour drive. My buddies that I fish with, one of my friends, Colin Pacella, his family's from Erie, so there was always a place to stay. So every winter, it was, you'd go to school. On the weekends, you're up in Erie. And no matter if it was, -2 or like 40 degrees, like we were out. We were those high school kids that were like too stupid to know what hypothermia was. And so yeah, it was catching steelhead. I definitely came into it later than a lot of my buddies did, especially in the fly side. I think really I picked up a fly rod my like senior year of high school, and just trying to learn like the mending, what flies, and then immediately as soon as I hooked my first one, I was like, I want to do this as much as possible. But
the first steelhead is, if you've grown up catching trout, like stock trout in lakes, the difference between that and like to borrow a Mark Twain quote is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. Is the difference between a stock trout and a steelhead. Steelhead being the lightning, of course. Like that is
to see like it was the way that we went about and did it. Like the same, like you've talked about it. Like in the Salmon River, you kind of have to pick your spot, and you're there for the entire day. Like you don't have the ability to move because there's a lot of people there. They are probably only going to hold up in little pools, and you got to be there at the right time. Like I said, like 2 a.m. But for Erie, what's really cool about it is there's so many creeks that you can kind of go on the hunt. So what we were doing and what we like to do usually is, we'll go up Elk Creek, we'll go up one of the mile creeks, and we'll go to a pool, 5 or 6 casts, and we're like, nope, not there. We're moving on. And, depending on the water clarity and everything like that, sometimes you can even see them. So that was like the coolest thing for me, is being able to be like, I don't have to like sit at a bank and kind of like wait. I don't have to, oh, well, they're not here, go home. Like I can go and find them. And
there was a hunt for you.
Yes, and that was like the coolest thing. And my buddies and I, we would, record on our cell phone. My friend Ben Neeson, who is an amazing steelhead fisherman. I mean, he's got that like Robbie instinct of just like, he knows like that's going to work. And
Robbie being Robbie Tartaglia?
Yes, Robbie being Robbie Tartaglia. And so he would be filming them. And we would just, it was, stupid high school videos that I've since had him unlist because I'm like, we're going to get jobs.
Can't have that up on the interweb.
Yeah, and I was like, this is probably not the greatest thing in the world to have up. But anywho, I saw he was doing that. I had gotten like a GoPro, and I was like, we'll just, put that all together. I got into college thinking that I was going to do like, broadcast television or something like that. And I had no idea what I was going to do. I'd saved up enough money through COVID and got myself a camera. I was doing some sports stuff. That was kind of then what I thought I was going to do. But, I would go home and fish, and I was like, well, I'm bringing this regardless. The first time I brought that camera was my first time at the Salmon River. and I mainly filmed it. Like, I did fish, and I got my biggest steelhead to date. I've only got a picture of it. We have no idea the weight it was, but you can see like my face in it. I am as giddy as possible. But made that video, and I'm like, you know what? I'm getting close. I'm getting close. I was nowhere near you, but in my head, I'm thinking, oh, we're getting close.
And that's where we all start, I think, as videographers and creatives. We're always looking up to somebody. We want to emulate what we're finding to be almost breathtaking. As a writer, Jimmy, you've told us in the car rides and the time out on the water, all this, you aspire to write like someone that you have fallen in love with. So we're always trying to reach for that next level, and it does just take time. It takes experience, and it takes learning from.
It takes
greatness.
hours in, man. At least I can only speak to the writing side. I am a kind of a duffer of a photographer. I'm getting there. Liam promised to teach me how to edit my photos a little bit better, but yeah, you just have to sit there and, at least writing wise, put pen to paper over and over, and then the writing, it's the rewriting. For you guys, it's the editing, and then getting all the shots you need, seeing what you messed up, so then next time you can go back in and get it right.
The best thing is making mistakes. Like, I look back at, like, I was doing some file organization, real, fun stuff, and I was looking back at some of my old stuff. I'm like, why did I do that? Why? And then I realized it's like, you made a mistake here, but you learn from that, and kind of going along it.
What types of mistakes? Just to
stylistic. It could be like, or more technical. I know this is a more fishing podcast, not a camera podcast.
No, but still, there's people want to document their catch. Everyone wants to make their own YouTube channel and fishing videos. So,
and it's like your f-stop was too high. You need to show the whole fish. You can't just you're focused in on the fish's head, and everything else is out of focus. Or you're focused in on the person's face smiling, but the fish is out of focus. Well, I need to then put my f-stop to 7 or 8, so that way I get everyone, and you see the fisherman and the fish.
Now, as if I'm 5, what is f-stop?
Yes,
that's aperture, correct? So.
That is. So it is think of your
the
eye.
depth of focus.
Yes. The bigger it is. Oh, now I'm getting into the nitty gritty. But yes, it is dependent on how much of the picture is in focus.
Think of it as your pupil in light,
yes.
Right? Your eyes open up as you get into darker environments, and your eyes close, or your pupil closes in brighter environments.
Boatmart is the online marketplace built to help you find your next boat. From the last fall striper blitz to next spring's first cast, Boatmart is here to get you on the water. With thousands of listings from fishing boats to pontoons, cruisers to sailboats, Boatmart has something for everyone. Listings from fishing boats to pontoons, cruisers to sailboats, Boatmart has something for every boater and every adventure. As the official marketplace partner of On the Water, we make it simple to find your next boat. Visit boatmart.com today to search for your next boat, or check them out in the classifieds tab on onthewater.com to find your next fishing boat.
Like you're saying, Liam, when you're filming and you're documenting and you're creating, there's going to be mistakes that you make. It doesn't matter whatever you do in life. If you look at a failure as a failure and not lessons learned, you'll never grow. And so as we're continuing to grow as creatives, I always used to say my best work is the next piece that I put out. That is always how I feel. Even though you get praise, even though people are like, that's amazing, this is great work. I think there's a little bit of perfectionism that comes into play with everything that we do on the creative side of things, and we are our biggest critics. And that only helps us grow into better creatives.
I mean, there's parallels there to fishing, too. I mean, you learn more from a trip where you go out and you struggle than you do on a trip where you go out and you nail it and you catch a fish on every cast. You learn more from the mistakes, from the errors. And again, like if you thought you'd caught to go back, you think your next work is going to be your best one. Same with fishing. If you thought you'd already caught all your best fish, why would you keep going?
We all start at ground zero. Doesn't matter what you do in life, whether it be fishing, whether it be video work. Yep. We all start with just taking that first step. And it is the tools that are in your camera bag or in your fishing bag that set you up for your journey. Does that make sense?
It does. But I'm going to take us right back to the Jersey Shore real quick and touch on one thing that we didn't yet touch on, and that is the official state food of New Jersey that I think you guys had for the first time on that
pork roll,
particular
egg, and
trip.
cheese.
Was my first
Was
time.
not your first time?
It was my first time.
Okay. And what pork roll is, and everyone should know, I don't, you know what? I actually don't. Everyone from New Jersey will know. People from New York should. Some in Massachusetts will. Funny story, I was out with Rob Taylor tog fishing, and I opened his cooler to get a drink out, and there was a giant bag of pork roll that he said that he had some clients up from New Jersey, and they brought it as like part of his tip was like a 5-pound bag of pork roll. I go, any of that up for grabs? He said, absolutely not. So Rob Taylor knows a good food when he sees it. Pork roll is basically it's
A giant bologna?
no, it's not bologna. It's got like brown sugar and enough preservatives that you can really taste the tang of the nitrates, and
Yes.
and that's good. There's probably some sawdust in there. Invented by John Taylor in Trenton. I did not expect to be doing a whole background on pork roll on this, but anyhow, you guys had it for the first time. We went to a restaurant. Every restaurant you go in New Jersey, every breakfast place is going to have pork roll on the menu. They'll crisp it up real nice. They'll put it on a breakfast sandwich, and that's what I usually do. But what were your first impressions of pork roll? You going to go back to, if you see it on the menu, we'll get that? Stick with bacon? What's the move?
I don't know. Anytime that you're in a new environment and that's kind of like their staple, you got to have it. It was good. I mean, I'm more of a sausage, egg, and cheese kind of guy, but swapping the sausage for pork roll while down in Jersey, I feel like I'm part of the locals.
Now, in Western Pennsylvania, you probably had a lot of scrapple out there.
Yeah, I mean, but I have family friends and friends from Jersey that, so my roommate in college, I would go and pick him up in Marlton, and every, the morning of us heading up to Massachusetts to go to school, we would stop, grab a pork roll, egg, and cheese, and then head up.
Did you eat a lot of scrapple, though? Was scrapple a thing in Pittsburgh, or is that more Pennsylvania?
No,
wasn't Philadelphia.
That it wasn't too much in it, the big thing was like fried bologna up in Erie. That was like their thing. And then for Pittsburgh, it's the Permane Brothers, that just giant sandwich, which is, we don't have to get too much into it for the podcast, but it is the steel workers in Pittsburgh. They didn't have time to eat a full lunch. So they would take their sandwich and put all the sides on top of it, crunch it down, and eat that. So Permane Brothers, what they do is it's a sandwich probably about that big, and it's a bunch of lunch meat with fries on top of it.
Okay.
And it is very filling and very good. But that's it's more of a lunch thing in Pittsburgh than there really is like a...
That's all one of the other sides of traveling and fishing, is getting the little bit of food culture in there too. Like I look forward to my my Western New York trip every year for the buffalo wings. Down in Jersey, you got to get the pork roll. If I ever go fish at Allegheny River, I will get the Permane Brothers sandwich out there.
You'll be good for 3 days. Well,
You've seen me eat. I mixed it up on our last trip to Jersey. Got a pork roll Benedict.
Yep.
I played it a little fast and loose. I knew I should have stuck with the classics. It was good. It was fine, but it was not.
It's not what you wanted in the
No,
moment.
like you like the crispness of the pork roll. The hollandaise sauce threw it all off.
I think that first bite was just kind of also the bad, the start of that kind of feeling of it, and we have it in the video. You took your first bite and it was just like scorching hot.
Just hot lava. And then, it was carrying that around with me as we were running up and down the beach after the peanut bunker. But
It sat a little heavy in the stomach.
everything I eat, I've been eating a lot of heavy stuff.
After showing you that drone footage of all of these stripers, I had to at least give you something. I was taking away one of your loves, and I needed to give you one of my loves. And on our way back, I made it very apparent we got to stop in New Haven. And not just New Haven, but we need to get some beets.
Beets. So yeah, there we go. There's another regional food passing through Connecticut. Alex insisted we stop. I would like to have gone home and seen my wife and children, but no, we stopped. I'm kidding.
No, you wouldn't.
They know. They know I'm kidding. We stopped. We stopped at Sally's,
Yes.
which you ranked as. I don't think it's a very controversial ranking. You think Sally's is tops, right? Over
That is
Frank
my
Pepe's?
number one.
Yep.
So when you go into New Haven,
You've got Connecticut roots. So,
Yes.
Because you established you're from Florida, but also.
I'm a weird combination of local and resident. I have a weird combination of local and resident history, whether it be Florida, Texas, Connecticut, New Hampshire. I've been all over the place. But I had my formative years in Connecticut, and I grew up in a town just north of New Haven by about 20 minutes. And there are 3 stops in New Haven that you have to go ahead and go to. Now, there's a clashing of ideologies with pizza. You got Zappardi's, you've got that I believe is West Haven. They love their Zappardi's. They're like, that is the top one.
Are you saying Sparrow?
No, Zappardi's. But the main 3, the big 3 in New Haven on Worcester Street is Frank Pepe's, Sally's, and Modern Pizza. I look at it as this. If you want a great white clam pie, you go to Frank Pepe's. They've got a solid, like, original mutz. But if you want a real, like, an unbelievable top-of-the-class pizza, you go to Sally's, because they've got not only their fantastic and award-winning mutz, but they have a tomato pie.
Mutz is mozzarella, just... Yeah.
Listen, when
I
you're
guess
down in New
it's
Haven,
obvious, but like, yeah,
well, when you're down in New Haven, it's mutz.
it's a pizza.
It's a beats, and there's a culture behind it, and it is an one of a kind place, just like Buffalo with its wings, and just like Pork Roll down in Jersey. So I wanted to at least tie that on in, but I gave these guys their first experience with New Haven pizza.
So what I loved about Sally's too is usually you sit down and eat at a pizza place and they serve it to you with like just the hot lava cheese and you burn the top of your mouth. Sally, like they have it so dialed in, they let it rest for a little bit. They rest your pie, comes out, and it's at the perfect eating temperature.
And we did not just one pizza. We did kind of
3.
like this trio of pies. We had to, right?
The table wasn't big enough.
No, it wasn't. I think I knocked over a glass of water or something like that.
Yep.
I think it shattered. We were basically sitting at a table half the size of this, all 3 of us, elbows tucked on in, and we had a giant, I think it's a 20-inch pie that they have, and then we had a smaller one, which was the white clam. And yeah, we were able to taste every single flavor that, at least to me, are my top go-tos.
That was good. That was a great way to cap off a great trip. And man, it just November in Jersey, good pizza on the ride home. Like what's better than that? Especially when you're staring at like the long, cold, dark northeast winter ahead. Not to end this on a
Sad.
It ain't sad for when it's getting cold in winter.
There we go. And
exactly.
there's our steelheader right there.
There
the
we
one
go.
Who embraces the horrible cold weather. I like it too. And I loved. So you talked about how you would go as many weekends as you could, and you really got a chance to learn it then. And that was. I wish I had that opportunity, that it was that close. When I lived in Pennsylvania, I didn't know what a steelhead was. You know,
Right.
lived
And
in
I mean,
Philadelphia.
for me, like, I had lived there for, what was it, probably like 6 years, and I hadn't really, but also, like, you know, we couldn't drive, like, we couldn't drive yet. We couldn't, like, it was be kind of hard to get up there. But, like, as soon as we kind of started to figure it out, then it was like, okay, we're going to go to Salmon River. We're going to go to Oak Orchard. We're going to go and, I mean, I haven't fished the Niagara yet, but my buddies have, and just like trying to get like what's better, what can we do that's better but also harder, and that was kind of the biggest thing. Like the first Salmon River trip, we got our teeth kicked in the first 2 days.
Dude, we have to have a full steelhead podcast because I think it's a nice yin to the yang that is striper fishing, whereas the striper fishing's fading in November and December, and the steelhead fishing's getting really good. And then when the steelhead fishing starts to taper off in April, striper fishing's getting really good. I've said this multiple times where if I had no attachments and was just independently wealthy and had nothing to do but to travel and fish, I'd spend my winter steelhead fishing and my summers and falls and springs striper fishing. But that's a topic for another time.
Yes, it is.
Guys, fun rehashing that trip and some of the adventures we've had together and learning a little more about you two, the men behind the cameras here at On the Water. If you want to see that show, we will put the link in our description, and make sure you watch season 23 of On the Water's Angling Adventures coming out later next January, where you'll be able to see this latest trip to New Jersey in November, the greatest month in what I think is one of the greatest states.